Down to the courtroom. The jurors are obviously
And
seated.
The record should reflect that we have now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel and our alternates. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you do you have the envelope with the sealed verdict forms, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you give those to Deputy Trower? And would you return those to our four-person juror number one? All right, Madam Foreperson, would you please open the envelope and check the condition of the verdict forms? All right, Madam Foreperson, you've had the opportunity to review the verdict forms.
Yes.
Are they the same forms that you signed, and are they in order?
Yes, they are.
All right, would you hand those, please, to Deputy Trower? And you have signed and dated those verdict forms indicating the jury's verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen and of the jury, I'm going to ask that you carefully listen to the verdicts as they are being read by the clerk, Mrs. Robertson, as after the verdicts have been read, you will be asked if these are your verdicts. And I would caution the audience during the course of the reading of these verdicts to remain calm, and that if there is any disruption during the reading of the verdicts, the bailiffs will have the obligation to remove any persons disrupting these proceedings. All right, Mrs. Robertson. All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case been convicted of at least one crime of murder of the first degree and one or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this second day of October 1995, Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please? Let's have it quiet in the courtroom, please. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you please poll the jurors?
Poll the jury. Juror number 1, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 3, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 4, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number 6, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number 7, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Anything we need to take up before we excuse the jurors, Mr. Cochran?
One last time. As you heard, the jurors have returned a verdict. It took less than 3 minutes to read in total and to poll the jurors. O.J. Simpson has been found not guilty of both first and second degree murder. As to Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, not guilty of murder. Therefore, special circumstances do not apply. O.J. Simpson has been acquitted of these crimes for which he has been charged. You could see the family reaction. Kim Goldman crying. You could hear her over.
Further service on this case. As you know, this does absolve you from your vows of silence. You may take with you your juror notebooks as you have requested, and we'll be chatting with you shortly. All right? Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later. All right.
Let's go now to our legal analysts in Washington, Roger Cossack and Greta Van Susteren. Roger, this is obviously a complete rejection of the prosecution case in less than 4 hours. What's your reaction?
Jim, this is a major, major defeat for the prosecution. And on the other hand, I can tell you this. We saw a trial. We saw a beginning, we saw a middle, we saw an end, and we saw a verdict. And whether I like the way the verdict ended up or it bothers me, or whether I think it should have been longer or should have been shorter, the judicial system had a trial. And that's what we've seen. And we've got to go on from here.
You can see the Goldman family and leaving the courtroom right now.
Ms. Clark. All right, the defendant having been acquitted of both charges, he is ordered transported to an appropriate CHAIRS facility and released forthwith. All right, we'll stand at recess.
Please clear the floor.
You heard Judge Lance Ito, the defendant, O.J. Simpson, having been found acquitted of both charges, will be released. Let's go now for some community reaction to Greg Lamott, who's standing by at the First AME Church in downtown Los Angeles. Greg?
Well, for about an hour or so prior to the verdict being read, people began streaming into the First AME Church to watch the verdict as it's being read. There are 3 television monitors here in the basement of the First AME Church. Just prior to the verdict being read, there was a stone-cold silence in this room as Judge Lance Ito was getting ready to hear those verdicts. And then when those verdicts were read, when the not guilty verdict was read, almost to a person, people stood up and cheered. Shortly thereafter, the Reverend Leonard Jackson stood up and talked to the folks here. He said that it was a sad day, that 2 lives had been lost, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. He also said that this means that another murderer or possibly 2 murderers still exist and are in the city of Los Angeles. And let's listen in to some reaction of the First AMA Church when the verdict was read.
James Simpson not guilty of...
Let's show you some reaction from outside the criminal courts building just after the verdicts were read. This is outside the court. What you're looking now is actually not live. It was taken just a few moments ago. This is reaction outside the court after the jury returned the verdicts not guilty of both counts of murder. We heard that the judge is ordering O.J. Simpson released forthwith. Let's go now to Greg Lefebvre, who's standing by at the Men's Central Jail. Greg, what procedurally happens next?
This is O.J. Simpson's next stop, but last night, that fateful night, was his last night to be spent here. According to usual procedure, Mr. Simpson would be transported back here to the Men's Central Jail. He would be then signed out. He would have his records checked to make sure there weren't any more warrants or wants for him. His fingerprints would be checked. He would have his personal items returned to him, and then he would be released to his own freedom. Now, we heard very early this morning that a representative from Johnny Cochran's office was here, reportedly with 2 vans with which to transport Mr. Simpson away should Mr. Simpson be acquitted.